In today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to send bulk email using UiPath. UiPath is a very powerful tool specializing in automating your repetitive tasks. Let me show you how. Right now, we are in the UiPath interface, and just a click on this button here, we can see that there are some processes running in the background, and UiPath is compiling all the activities for us. And you can see that the execution has ended in seconds. Let's take a look in our email here to see if we send out the emails or not. And the message prompt right here indicates that we are receiving all the emails that we just sent out. So this is a very huge improvement and time saver for us. So as usual, before we start, there are a few points you need to take note of. Number one, UiPath comes with a free Studio Community version. So this indicates that we can register an online account and download the software for us to use in our PC or laptop for free. I have included the link to the UiPath website so that you can do the registration accordingly. Number two, the documents we need to use for this tutorial are included in my video description link below. It includes the sample document, and in this case, which are statement of account. We will be needing a customer master data list too in Excel. You are very welcome to use your own version of document and master data list, but bear in mind that your master data list, the content itself may be different, but the format shall follow this: customer name, customer code, email address, and CC. If you have realized by now, these are the information that we need to include in our normal email content. So once you have all your documents ready, let's get started. Once you have downloaded your UiPath Studio, let's open it now. It will take a while for us to load our UiPath in our PC or laptop. Once done, go under New Project, select Process. Let's rename our process here as Send Bulk Email Tutorial 2. You can always leave a brief description on what is your project about, and in this case, I will just say send bulk email for single attachment for multiple clients. Click Create, and it will land us to the UiPath interface. So once you are in the UiPath interface, just like this, we can start to create our own coding or sequence. Let's go to our activities here. The first step is to use our Excel master data list. In order to do so, we need to search for Excel scope. Click on Excel process scope and drag it all the way into our main sequence here so that we can drop it as an activity. This process allows us to include or call out our Excel data list. Next, search for use Excel file so that we can use our intended Excel. In this blank area here, we are going to include the Excel path or Excel link in our computer. So in this case, I'm going to create a variable so that whenever I call out this Excel link, we can use the variable instead of pasting the long Excel link. I will show you how to do so. So to create variable in UiPath, you can Control K, and you can see that set variable is popping out. So we are going to name it as str, which stands for string Excel path. Click enter, and when you go to these variables, you can see that this variable that we just created appears here. Now we are going to store the link in this default section. Let's go to our folder and to copy the Excel link path. Under default, Ctrl V to paste it. Make sure you have open close parentheses so that it remains a valid link. So once done, I will untick on this create if not exist, because this Excel file is exist in our computer already. So what we are going to do next is to read range. Basically, it allows us to read certain worksheet in our Excel. And in this case, it will be our sheet 1 because this is where we store our master data list. Click on plus sign here and you can see that the UiPath has automatically loaded the available worksheet. Click on sheet 1 and we are going to create a new variable so that we can just call out this variable name instead of typing this long function whenever we need to call out this sheet 1. Ctrl K. Let's name it as str sheet 1. Enter. And you can see that we have successfully created the new variable for stir sheet 1. So the next thing we are going to do is to use assign function. Drag it over here. What we are going to do right now is to call out our documents that we save in a folder in our PC. So we are going to create two new variables here. The first one is, let's click on variables and rename it as stir folder path. So we are going to store the folder link under default section over here. Go to your folder where you save all your documents. Ctrl C to copy it and then you paste it over here. You have to include the open and close parentheses or else this link won't work. Once you included them and you can see that the warning sign is gone. So basically what it does is to include the folder link in this variable. The next variable we are going to create is called array files. So ARR, array files. So it will store all the documents inside this particular folder link. So for the variable type for this one, we are going to select array of T and click string. OK. So once done, go to our save to section over here. Call out the array files that we just created. And we are expected to write a little bit of coding on this one. So in this case, we are going to call out all the documents in this folder link. So basically, we have 5 documents and you will have 5 callouts. So in order to do so, type directory dot get files. You can see that the UiPath has automatically loaded all the functions that they have previously written. So once you see this automatically popping out, you can just click tab and then it will select the first option for you. Open bracket. We are going to include the variable that we created just now, which is stir folder path. Basically, what it means that we are going to get the files inside this folder link. We are going to get the directory of it, which means basically it means the folder, the file link. Click OK. and the warning sign is gone. It seems good. So the next thing we're going to do is to look for each item in our folder link. We are going to search for the customer code. So if you recall that we have this document that we have saved in our folder, and what we are going to do right now is to get the customer code of this one. We are going to extract the customer code out of these file names so that we can compare with our master data list based on our documents over here. I hope this makes sense. So we are going to search for each function. Drag it over here. So for the list of items, it will be our array files because we are referring to our array files. The files link that we just saved previously. Array files. And I will rename this item. Instead of using current item, I will just use item. In this body section, we are going to assign a customer code. So we are going to create a new variable again that will be array customer code. Once done, search for assign. We are going to assign the array customer code and we are going to extract only the customer code from these file names. So include the array customer code and we are expected to write a little bit of coding over here. So let's write the function over here. Type path dot get file name. So we are going to choose get file name without extension, the second option, because the intention for us to do this function is to extract this customer code only, and we do not want the extension at the behind. So what extension means is actually the type of file, and in this case will be our .pdf. We do not want to extract this extension. We just want this customer code. So this is why we select the get file name without extension. Open and close bracket, item dot to string. We're going to convert this whole thing to string type instead of using array function. So the next part will be a little bit technical, but just bear with me. I will explain afterwards. Split, open and close bracket, -c, open and close bracket again, 1. So basically what it does is, if you refer to my folder again, you can see that my document always follow the same naming format. So basically what it does for split is, I'm going to split this name into 2 parts. And I will be needing only this customer code. So I'm splitting everything behind this dash. And I'm selecting this C1, 2, 3, 4. And in this case, in computer programming, it always starts with 0. So this part stands for 0, region 0. And what I'm going to extract right now is region 1. So this is why I include 1 over here instead of 0. So it seems good. Click on OK. So what we are going to do next is to filter data table. So in our assign section just now, what we have done is to call out only the customer code from our documents that we pre-save in our folder. And in this case, I have only 4 documents. So right now we are going to filter the data table based on the customer code that we extracted just now. So in our filter data table, this is the input. We are going to call out stir sheet 1. So if you recall correctly, we have created a new variable just now in our read range function, which is this master data list, the sheet 1. So in our filter data table right now, this is the input that we want, the stir sheet 1, because this is where we store our master data. Once you select it, we have to, this is the input, and then once we have input, we do have output. So we are going to create a new variable for that. Control K, let's call it as filtered data table. Click on enter. All right, all good. Okay, so in our configure filter, what we are going to do is to include the information or criteria that you want to filter. So in this case, in our assign section just now, we have already filtered the customer code in our folder over here. So what we are going to do right now is inside our Excel sheet, our table name, our column name is customer code. So we have to follow this format right here. We are going to include the column name that we are going to filter, and in this case is our customer code. Open and close parentheses, include the customer code. You have to follow exactly the same format over here. So for the operation, it will be equal sign. And for this value, what we are going to input here is actually array customer code. Why? Because basically what we are telling the UiPath is that I want my customer code to follow the array customer code that I have just assigned just now in to read the customer code that I just assigned in my folder link over here. I hope this makes sense. So once we done the filtering, we are going to loop the data over again. So we are going to use for each row in this case. You have to select this for each row in data table instead of this Excel version. You have to select this data table one. Once done, I'm going to rename this one to row instead of current row. And so where particular we want to read this data from is the filtered data table. So just like in our filter data table section, we have the output filtered data table. So this is the data table that we are going to input over here. We are going to loop the item over and over again from this filtered data table. So just select it. So right now what we are going to do is to assign. We're going to assign 3 particular informations. The first one is our customer name. Next will be email address and CC. We are going to assign only these 3 information because we are only needing these 3 information in our email message. Search for assign. We are going to create new variable for one of each of these. Control K, stir customer name, click enter. So for the value to save is, we are going to read this customer name from our Excel sheet over here. So in order to do so, we have to write a little bit coding on this one. That will be row, open and close bracket, customer name. You have to follow the exact same format as over here. Customer name dot to string, open and close bracket. Alright, it seems good. So basically we just repeat the same thing for stir email address and stir CC for the rest of these two columns. So the same thing over here, create a new variable for stir email address. We are assigning this over here so that we can just call out the stir email address later on. The same format, row, email address, dot to string. Alright, one last one, our CC variable, the new variable CC. Include the function over here, row, CC dot to string. CC shall be capitalized. Alright, once done assigning for these three variables, we are ready to send out our email messages. But before that, we have to include one last function, which is a send Outlook mail message. Drag and drop it over here. So basically, what it does right now is to include all the information that you need in your Outlook mail message. The first one too is of course your email address. Just now we have already done the assigning, so it's quite straightforward over here. Stir email address. So for the subject itself, I will write a little bit coding on this one because I do need to follow certain format. So we are setting out the statement of account for May. So I will open and close parentheses, May 2023 SOA for company. I want it to be a little bit personalized or dynamic because I want to include the company name, but I don't want to type it one by one. So to make it a little bit dynamic, if you recall correctly, just now we have done assigning this stir customer name. So we just have to include the plus sign and stir customer name and it will make it dynamic. Click on OK. So for the body, that will be your message content. I have pre-saved it. So I'll just copy it and then Control V. Seems good. Okay. So the last step for us to do is to attach our files or documents. We are going to create a new argument for this, but what will be our value or place that we store our or we save our document? So let us scroll back to this for each section here, and you will notice that we have saved our files in this variable called array files. And each document or each item in this variable, we have renamed it as item. So in this case, we are going to call this item to attach our document. Select attach files. Type item, and we are going to convert it to string type 2. So click on OK. This is basically how we build the whole sequence for sending the attachment to client via email. So we are going to give it a test run to send out these 4 documents to our client via email. Click on this to have a test run. So UiPath has already compiled all the activities for us. Oops, there is an error. So whenever you encounter any error in your coding, the UiPath will stop the process and it will highlight to you which part has gone wrong. So in this case, it seems that my index was outside the bounds of the array. So I'm going to stop the process and to examine my steps or coding. So it seems that my function here has a little bit of error. Oh, so this C, we shouldn't include C inside this open and close parentheses. My apologies. You have to type the C outside the parentheses, but it's inside the bracket. So let's have another test run again, and this time I believe with finger crossed we will be able to send out the documents successfully. So execution started. Alright, it has ended. So let's see if we have our documents sent out from our email. And you can see that yes, it's a success. So we are waiting for the email to come in. We can see that yes, we have successfully sent out and received the 4 emails. So what it does is actually you can see that I have 4 documents here, and inside my Excel data list, we have 5 customer data. I have specifically excluded this C1235 from my folder so that you can see a comparison that we actually do really input. We emphasize, we filter based on the criteria that what document is inside our folder, and from there we are going to filter it based on our master data. So you can see that master data we have 5 customer details, but in our documents we have only 4. So what UiPath does is just send out only 4 documents to our 4 clients. So basically this is how we build the send bulk email for one attachment to our client via email in UiPath.